Burnt Toast!
We're here today talking to Tony Leone, the drummer from Little Feat, and Ollabelle and the Chris Robinson Brotherhood, and he also played with Levon Helm, among many others. I'm so happy to have you here to talk to today, Tony. Thank you so much for your time.
Todd, my man, so good to see you.
Good to see you. Now, you originally aspired to be a jazz drummer and studied with some very legendary people. Can you tell me about that?
Well, actually, that's not completely quite true
Okay, all
because
right.
I started playing in bands when I was about 11 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and all we played at that point was Neil Young, Leonard Skinner, Jimi Hendrix, and I was playing with some guys that were a little bit older than me, so they were turning me on to all the coolest stuff
Okay.
because I was just kind of at that age where classic rock I was starting to become aware of all the classic bands. I knew
Okay.
about the Beatles, I knew a little bit about the Stones, but I was just starting to learn about Skinner, Led Zeppelin, Neil Young, Jimi Hendrix, you know, all the major artists of the late 60s, early 70s,
So this
Clapton.
wasn't quite such a jump for you then to go to some of the other bands. The
That
bands
I've been playing.
that you played with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it was like kind of me going back to my roots,
Okay.
in a way. Yeah,
Okay. But you
yeah.
did study with some very heavy jazz people.
So yeah, that came about because I knew it from an early age that I wanted to be a musician, and I had the opportunity when I was about 15 to attend a school in Hartford that was just starting, and it was basically a performing arts high school. And so at about 15, 16, 15, I would say was when I was the first time that I realized jazz was not just Glenn Miller band and in the mood and stuff like that. It's where I first learned about Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, Charlie Parker, people like that. And then I was kind of like parallel worlds happening all at the same time. I never really stopped listening to rock and roll, but at one point at about 18 or 19, kind of when I started college, I got kind of very serious about playing jazz and started to buy more records and started to study with some different people. And the school where I went, the Hart School of Music at the University of Hartford, at that time, the jazz program was chaired by the great Jackie McLean, who was basically a student of Charlie Parker,
Right. Yeah.
a disciple of Charlie Parker, and grew up in Sugar Hill, Harlem. And I was very lucky because at that time, Jackie was around school a lot, so I got to spend a lot of time with him. And all of us that were there during that time, this is like, for me, it was about 87 till about 91. We spent a lot of time with him, and he would constantly regale us with stories about Charlie Parker and Thelonious Monk and Bud Powell and Art Blakey and Charles Mingus and his
Wow, man.
basically his
Wow.
John Coltrane, his contemporaries. They were his contemporaries,
Yes. Yes.
So that was exciting. So I got really serious about jazz probably at about 18, 19, and I started even like selling, trading my rock records to get some, old Blue Note sides and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you studied with, I believe you studied with at least two very serious jazz drummers as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, actually quite a few. I mean,
Yeah.
during that time I really there was a day that I was walking down the hall and actually Jackie was walking down the hall and I ran into him and he had such a presence at the school. He really loomed large and he was just such a fantastic figure, and he pulled me aside and he said, Tony, you've really been growing and you're coming a long way, follow me up to the office for a minute. And we went up to his office and he picked up the phone and he called his childhood friend and uh, uh, bandmate through, played on many of his records. He called the great Arthur Taylor, who
Wow.
was the drummer on Giant Steps, as
Right.
well as like hundreds of prestige sessions. He played with everybody from Charlie Parker, Bud Powell, Thelonious Monk, John Coltrane, Jackie McLean, Miles Davis. He played with everybody. Um, and so Jackie called him up and said, I got a guy here, he's coming along. He needs some help with his cymbal beat. and and he sent me for a lesson at Art Taylor's house. And so it was great because I went to his house in his apartment in Harlem, and I got to play those same K Zildjians that he played on all those prestige dates. He still had them. I think the ride cymbal was something that Max Roach had given him.
Wow.
And yeah, and so and I kept in touch with him whenever he came to Hartford to give master classes. I'd always pick him up at the bus terminal and take him around town, and so maybe he was definitely one of the greats of that era, for sure. One of the
Yeah,
most swinging drummers of all time. But
absolutely.
during that time, also, I reached out to a lot of guys that were kind of contemporary acoustic jazz players, people like Kenny Washington,
Yeah.
who was maybe about 10 years older than me, not quite, but had really played with a lot of greats.
Yeah.
Carl Allen was another guy I took a few lessons with because he had been in Jackie's band for a
I,
while.
I did too.
Oh,
I
Carl,
did
yeah.
too, man. Yeah,
Carl turned me on
I
to
did
a
two
lot of
years
great
with
stuff.
Carl. Yeah.
Oh man, he turned me on to a lot of really cool stuff,
Great guy
and
too. Great guy.
great guy for
His
sure, and
voicemail was
swinging.
always, he'd always say, keep swinging on his voicemail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great guy. Yeah.
He was a swinging drummer too, man. He really
Still
played
is.
great,
Yeah.
and he could light it up too. He could lay back and play real tasty. But with Jackie, Jackie used to call him the firebrand, because he was like somebody dropping a bomb on stage, man. He
Yeah.
was fiery.
Yeah.
Uh, so I reached out to he took a couple lessons with him, and uh, another guy named Adam Nussbaum was
Sure.
really helpful to
Played
me
with John
early on.
Schofield. Yeah.
Played with Schofield
Yeah.
early on, and has played with a lot of other greats, Michael Brecker, and
Yeah.
he's a fantastic musical, great drummer. Um, so that was a really fertile time for me at school. You
Cool.
know,
So now you were doing gigs as straight ahead jazz gigs?
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, I mean, I was like serious. I had friends that were playing bar gigs and they were partying their asses off. And I was partying. I had fun in college, that's for sure. But I was like, had to be swinging,
Yeah.
all the gigs that I played had to be swinging, even if it was a cocktail party, as long as we were like playing standards and I could play a little two feel with my brushes and hit some
Yeah.
4/4. I was into it. And that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I started playing some gigs with some of my teachers, the great Nat Reeves,
Yeah.
bass player,
Hmm.
uh, a guy who's really only a couple of years younger than me, but an incredible musician named Steve Davis. He's a trombonist,
Okay.
incredible composer, just an incredible natural musician. But he played in Art Blakey's band for a few years, couple of years, I think.
Hmm.
He played in Chick Corea's band called Origin. He played, in Roy Hargrove's big band. He's really, I mean, he's maybe the preeminent voice on the instrument of this generation, anyway.
Cool.
Um, and so, yeah, man, I was like
So,
straight ahead, man.
so you were set in this direction. Was there like a catalyst that changed your direction to the guy that we know now? Or,
Well, what started to happen is, you know, I'm a suburban kid from the suburbs of Hartford, and I grew up listening to classic rock radio. And like I said, as I was learning about all the jazz masters, I was I was deep into rock and roll, man. It was always, and not just like the classic rock stuff uh, that was on the local radio station. Um, you know, your English bands and your all
Yeah.
all that stuff, but even stuff like Van Halen too, and uh, at the same time I was listening to all that stuff. Uh, I was listening to the jazz stuff at the same time.
Okay.
So like but I never stopped listening to the rock and roll, you know. So I get to school and I'm feeling like it's this kind of crossroads where I got to get real serious, you know, and oh, and all during high school I went to a lot of shows, saw a lot of my favorite bands, both Roger Waters and David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. I saw their solo tours. Roger Waters with Eric Clapton. Saw the Police on the Synchronicity tour, and
Oh man.
Van Halen on 1984, and The Firm with Jimmy Page and Paul Rogers. You know,
Yeah.
but I also saw a lot of Grateful Dead concerts, and Jerry Garcia was becoming more and more of a an influence on what there was something so organic and natural and direct, no frills about Garcia's sense of melody and his singing and his playing that really struck me. So, I mean, I guess I was maybe in my second year of school. I remember it was probably, guess it was July of 1989, and I had done 2 years at the University of Hartford, and I had been a music ed major. I had been studying some classical. I'd been playing in the orchestra. I'd been playing timpani. Um, but I do remember I kind of had this. We were at Giant Stadium July 1989 to see the Grateful Dead and Los Lobos. And, there were some chemicals that were being ingested.
Oops.
But anyway, I kind of had this thought, you know, where I was like, geez, you know, I really, music is what I've always wanted to do since I was a little kid. My first musical hero was Elvis, you know, uh, and I loved early rock and roll. I loved, I loved Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Fats Domino, Jerry Lee,
Yeah.
and but I just kind of realized, man, like you have this opportunity. You know, you're in classes. You see Jackie McLean like 3 times a week, and get
Huh.
to play with him every Wednesday morning,
Yeah.
and then your percussion professor is the guy that basically wrote the book on timpani methodology. Man, you should be soaking up all you can from all these people, you know,
Yeah.
and get so it was kind of around that time that I got went more down the rabbit hole, but I never I never let go of my roots. And so by the end of school, to answer your question, yeah, by the time I got out of school, I started having like not cold feet, but I started to get worried about like, all right, well, you know, I'm gonna move to New York now, and I started doing some gigs down there, and I was making like 35 bucks, you know,
Yeah, you were
and
playing Smalls, right?
I wasn't playing at Smalls. I used to play at a joint called Augie's,
Okay.
which was now it's called Smoke.
Oh
Now
yeah.
it's
Okay.
a
Yeah.
real supper club with great musicians there. And at that point, it was a place called Augie's, and it was more of a college hangout for people that went to Columbia University, you know.
Okay.
And and so it was all like young jazz musicians playing there. And so, you know, you'd play a gig there, it was past the hat, you'd make like 35 bucks. Maybe you had a few beers that were 6 bucks a piece,
Oh my. Yeah.
and it was like I just remember, and then sometimes the only people that would be in the audience would be other musicians that were like sizing you up, you know,
Right.
listening to you, and like and
With
they
your arms
wanted your
folded, right?
35. Yeah,
With
yeah,
the
like,
folded arms.
and then you
Yeah,
play something, and then they look at the other guy and go like this, and you're
yeah.
like, oh man. And I'm not sure I was, mentally prepared for that. Uh, but
Yeah.
so it was around that time I started to think about what is, it's going to be hard to make a living just playing this music. What is the music that resonated with me when I was a kid? And it was right around that time when I first moved to New York that I saw on PBS the um, the Bob Dylan 30th anniversary um, concert,
Okay.
that they did at Madison Square Garden, and everybody was on there. I mean, Eric Clapton, Neil Young, the Byrds,
Yeah. George Harrison. Yeah, yeah,
George Harrison,
yeah, yeah.
they say Eric already, Eric
Yeah.
Clapton, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers,
Yep.
Jim Keltner, you know.
Yeah. Keltner can be very inspiring. Yes. He can change your whole world around. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you saw
So
that, and then after that, I mean, was that like a decision that you made, or just something where you went, um, I could do that?
it wasn't like I could do that. It was like that's that's not music I'm studying. That music is in my DNA,
Cool.
you know.
Yeah.
That's 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 a sound that has been in my ears since I was 10, 11 years old, and now I'm 20. Uh it's it's part of who I am, and I can't push that aside. I can't
Sure.
outrun that, you know. I can't act like that part of me never existed.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
Yeah.
And so I started to get more serious about listening to that kind of music too, and going back and trying to, like we all do, filling in the holes, man. Filling in, like, oh, I always heard about that guy, but I never checked out that record and seeing who was on it. And because the more stuff you listen to, the more options it gives you, right? Like, of
Mhm.
how you can react in a certain situation or not react.
Sure.
It widens your vocabulary. So it was around then that I started listening to more Bob Dylan. Uh, I started to actually go back and buy the band records, like
Yeah.
instead of only knowing, Up on Cripple Creek and The Wait.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I watched The Last Waltz like 100 times.
That should be
Uh,
required. Yeah.
it really should. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. Levon hated that movie. It was best to not even mention it around him. But man, it is such a time capsule of some of the greatest artists of that time.
Yeah.
And it's so inspiring, you
Yeah.
know. So
I know he felt like it was all he made, like Scorsese made it all about Robbie, but I really come away a big Levon Helm fan out of that movie.
I think
You know?
everybody does.
Yeah.
I think there's no two ways about it, man. He's the star of that show. Whether
Yeah.
whether or not, like, who got more camera time or whatever, there's
Yeah.
nobody in the whole film that's any cooler except maybe Muddy Waters, or
Yeah.
Van.
Yeah.
Van is pretty cool in there too.
Yeah. With the
But
leisure suit, right?
yeah, yeah.
With the leisure suit. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there is, I mean, everything from, like, not only from watching him play and hearing him sing, but to, like, him lighting Robbie's cigarette across, when they're
Yeah.
getting interviewed. I mean, he's just like the coolest. He's a movie star on top of being like
Yeah.
one of the greatest artists,
Later
you
he
know.
kind of was. He kind of
Yeah,
was
and
a movie
later he
star.
was. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you find the folks in Ollabelle then?
So the Ollabelle thing was really interesting because I moved to New York the first time in '91. I moved back to Hartford. I moved back to New York in '98,
Okay.
and I had already been playing up in Hartford with some guys that would come up to New York. There was a club up there, and Steve Davis, who I mentioned before,
Sure.
had a series up there where he would bring guys up from New York and we would be the backing rhythm section, you know. So by the time I got down here, I knew a lot of people on the jazz scene and I started working a fair amount. But I still had that itch that wasn't being scratched, man.
Sure.
You know, the Grateful Dead, Dylan, the band. I started to learn a little bit about country music, you know, and Hank Williams. Uh, Scorsese did that 6-part blues
Yep.
documentary,
Yep.
and that opened my eyes and ears to a lot of stuff that I was somewhat aware of, but not, you know, that was very helpful to me. I mean, I learned a lot about the blues from watching that series, and so it's kind of a long story, but like I met a few people that were kind of hanging out in the East Village scene in New York, which is where all the kind of rock and roll clubs were, and where the like the alt country scene was kind of happening.
Yep.
You know, your flannel shirts and your
Yeah.
you know, I had people starting to wear bowlers and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
um, uh, and I was with a great friend of mine named Dave Spalding, and we were walking around the East Village one night, and we walked by a club called Manitoba's.
Okay.
It was on Avenue A, I think, and we see there's a band playing there, and there's uh, a very attractive blonde woman playing an acoustic guitar and singing country songs, and it was obviously her band. And so we went in, and the band was pretty cool. We dug it, and we got on her email list after that. And her name was Fiona McBain,
Okay.
and she's actually, I mean, we're married now, but like,
Okay.
long story short, we're married. But she kind of put Ollabelle together. She had been singing with Glenn Patcha, our organ player, and who had been playing piano in her band. And Glenn knew Amy Helm from New Orleans when she had been down there for a little while, living with her
Mhm.
dad, who was there because he opened a club. You know, he had Levon Helm's Great American Bar and Grill.
In New Orleans?
Yeah, for
Oh, I
like
didn't know that.
a couple years, I think maybe, or a year or something.
Okay.
It didn't last very long, but so Glenn and Amy met down there. So that was kind of that was kind of the beginnings of Ollabelle. So Fiona had this weekly gig at a place called 9C on the corner of Avenue C and Ninth Street.
Hmm.
And first she would do her own band, but after she kind of started singing with Glenn and Amy, she said, "Well, why don't?" And they were singing old gospel and blues tunes, you know, mostly old spirituals though.
Hmm.
And she said, "Well, why don't we do gospel night on Sunday night at this little dive bar, you know?" And somehow, I guess because I'd been on the scene, I met her. I started meeting some of the other people around there, and so we knew each other enough and had played together a few times where she called me for the gig and said we have like, I think it was probably it was after, so 9/11 was September 2001. So it was March of 2002, I think, that we started playing together in a loose configuration, kind of at that 9C dive bar, playing the my man is practicing over there. Can you hear
Yeah. A little bit. A little bit.
him? uh, yeah, so that's kind of when that started, and that's how we all got hooked up. And by the end of that year, by October of 2002, we recorded our first album together. We had sifted through a bunch of the old Alan Lomax field recordings,
Yeah.
and we kind of came up with our own arrangements and kind of psychedelicized them a little bit, and and that's how the first Ollabelle record came to be.
Cool.
But the funny thing about that record and my memories of making that record was that the guy that produced it was a guy named Steve Rosenthal, and he owned the studio where we were recording. It was called the Magic Shop in Soho. It was kind of my first recording experience, and he was tough on me. He was tough on, you know,
Oh,
he
wow.
wanted
Okay.
very specific things out of the drums, and I hadn't done like a singer-songwriter record, you know. I had done some jazz records, and it's all about just getting good takes, good feeling takes. But he wanted specific parts, so that was kind of my first experience doing that. But I would finish there around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then I would go straight over to the jazz standard where I was playing all week with the Illinois Jacket Big Band
All right. Cool. Yeah.
for his 80th birthday. And he was, I don't know how much you know about him, but his nickname was the Beast. You know, his because he could be one of the meanest guys in showbiz, man.
Wow. So you're
Yeah,
getting beat on during the day, and then you're getting beat on at
I
night.
got I got my stripes that week, man.
Yeah, man.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So
So, and that band was sort of that was your main project for a while then, or was that how did that work?
yeah, it kind of was. We made the record. It came out. So we recorded it in October of 2002, and it came out in March 2004.
Okay.
Took a while to come out. But that and those that 2002 and 3 were some kind of lost years in there for me. I don't like.
Okay.
I mean, I think we played a lot. We played a lot at the living room with that band.
Hmm.
I think I was still doing some jazz gigs. I was playing a lot at Smalls during that time.
Okay.
Uh, I was playing up at Smoke during that time. Um, I was also teaching still at the University of Hartford during
Okay.
that time. I
All
had
right.
a bunch of teaching gigs up there in Hartford still, so I was going back and forth. Um, but yeah, that was when things started to shift for me a little bit because it was like in the scene I was running in, the jazz scene, it was very, very straight ahead.
Right.
And I mean, it's stupid that I even thought of it this way, but I felt like if any of those dudes found out that I was playing some rock and roll or, God forbid, country music,
Yeah.
that's it. My phone would stop ringing. Um,
Brian Blade.
well, he was
Brian
kind of the
Blade.
impetus for a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
for me. You know, like when I saw that he was like, first of all, he's just such an incredible musician. He
Yeah.
really is. I mean, like seeing him live in New York was like at the time I was drinking and I was also not feeling great about my playing and seeing him at Sweet Basil one night. It was not with anybody even that famous. It was like him with Mark Turner, a bass player named Joe Martin, and a piano player named George Colligan, and they just played quartet. And I mean, that music just sent a shiver up my spine.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just throw my sticks in the garbage after that. I was just like, there's this guy is just so heavy, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So free and open and dynamic and you know, it was just wonderful. And so when I found out he was playing on like Dylan records
Yeah.
and playing with Joni and stuff, I was like, wow, this guy is he can do it all, you know. And so in a way, I think I did kind of aspire to to dig deeper into some of that music and just see where it would take me, you know.
Sure. Now, how did you get it? I mean, it's pretty obvious that you're playing in a band with Levon Helm's daughter, but how did you get involved with playing double drums with Levon?
Well, when we met Levon while we were doing that first record, and he actually played with us on a couple of cuts on the album.
That had to be incredible.
that I'll never forget it. I'll
Yeah.
never forget it. I'll never forget when we were cutting. There's a tune on there. It's a Blind Willie Johnson tune called "Soul of a Man," and
Yeah.
Amy sings the lead on it.
Yeah.
And he came in with us and played on that track. And I remember playing tambourine, sitting next to him in the studio, and just watching him. And just, I felt like when I think back, somehow I feel like I was taller at that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was floating, man.
Yeah.
And he was just so gracious, and he got to the studio and he had like a bunch of hot rods that he was passing, the
Yeah.
dowelly
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
sticks,
Yeah.
yeah, passing those out. And, hey, everybody, how you doing? But he didn't have his voice. He was just getting over throat cancer
Yeah.
and dealing with radiation. And so that's how we all got to know him. And I think it was maybe, so if that was October of 2002, I guess it would have been somewhere in 10,003, like in the new year, that he started doing the rambles, and they started as kind of a rent party, you
Right.
know.
So in his
He
barn at
hadn't,
his home, right? In his barn is at home, at his home.
yeah, yeah, it's not, and it's not really a barn, like he never kept animals in there or
Right. Right.
anything,
Oh, yeah.
but it's built like a big old barn, and it's just wood everywhere, and all the beams are connected with like wood dowels, wood spikes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place, and he always called it the barn, and so yeah, I mean there was barely even a sound system at those first gigs. It was like him, a local bass player, uh, uh, there was a guitar player he'd been working with at the time, and then they got Johnny Johnson to come play piano.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then I forgot who the tenor player was, but he was barely singing. He was just doing
Yeah.
it like he would say in the beginning. It was just a rent party, just so he could like keep the lights on and keep oil in the tank, heat up the house, and because he hadn't been working, he lost his voice, and as he started to do these rambles, what they became for him was a way to get his voice back, where he didn't have to deal with getting hired for a little run by some promoter and then go play the gig, and they're like, "Hey man, how come you didn't play the weight?" Or the
Yeah.
audience
Yeah.
is screaming for him to sing the weight when he doesn't have a voice.
Yeah.
He was able during that time to focus on his playing and gradually get his voice back, and have that kind of incredible victory lap of a career that he had towards the end
Right.
there. It was
Yeah.
really fantastic. But that's how we in Ollabelle all got to meet and be around Levon. It was definitely through meeting Amy and being around Amy and her taking us around him. And we used to go up there. We would come off the road and we'd have the bus drop us off at his house. And some of us would just stay there and hang out for a week because he's got a
Wow.
pond like in the backyard.
Yeah.
And we were doing stuff. We were like catching largemouth bass out of his pond, and we were like cleaning them up and putting cornmeal all over them and frying them up, and we just had a blast up there. And he loved having us up there. One of my favorite memories is I'll never forget this because we were partying at the time, and he used to love to walk around and pass out joints as he was rolling them. He's just
Okay.
like, but we had a particularly big night, and I slept on this couch that was kind of up in the studio area, but the window was right over the couch, and I didn't close the curtains or whatever. So I'm on the couch, and it's morning, the sun's beating down, I'm sweating. All of a sudden, I open my eyes, I feel like something rustling. I open my eyes, and Levon is standing over me, and he's closing the curtains so the sun doesn't wake me up.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. So were there any in particular, were there any I mean, that's a pretty legendary place, pretty mythical place. Were there any in particular memorable shows that you would want to talk about that happened there?
There were so many, um, because especially once those things got rolling, different
They were
people were
huge
showing
after
up.
a while. Yeah.
All different people were showing up. You had Nick Lowe and Elvis Costello and Emmylou Harris, and after a while, like even John Prine was there, Chris Christopherson, Mavis Staples, uh,
Wasn't Phil
uh,
Lesh there? Phil Lesh? Yeah.
Phil started to come around. In fact, the the inspiration for Phil opening his club on the West Coast was seeing how the barn worked,
Cool.
and seeing what that was about. And he thought, well, wouldn't that be cool if I wasn't on the road all the time and I had like my own club where I could play music with my kids? And
Yeah.
he did.
And Donald Fagen also, right?
Donald's been in and out of the mix for a
Yeah.
long time.
Because
Yeah.
he's Amy's stepfather, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. He's he's Amy's stepdad, and he's a Woodstock resident as well.
Yeah.
So
I had heard stories about him taking groceries to Sonny Rollins, who also lives up there, I guess. So it seems like a really
yeah,
trippy community, man.
Sonny's up there. Jack was up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jimmy Cobb was up there. I think
Wow.
Pat Metheny's up there. There's a lot of musicians in
Yeah.
that area.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Now, moving along here because we've only got so much time. How did
Yeah.
how did you pick up the gig with Chris Robinson Brotherhood?
So Chris, the first time I met Chris was at Levon's barn. Actually,
Okay.
he was there. The Crows had been. They recorded one of their albums at Levon's studio once the barn was up and running.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Uh, so I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called Cabin Fever. Um, so they were up there, and there was a ramble this one Saturday, and Chris was there, and he's another guy with such a huge presence,
Yeah.
and uh, and at that point, I was doing the thing where Levon would go up front and play mandolin for a short acoustic set, and I would play drums.
Hmm.
The funny thing about that was that, like, I never knew really if I was on the gig, but I just made it my business to get my ass up there every Saturday that I could,
Sure.
because, and I would say to myself, look, if you ask me to play, I'll play, but if not, like, it's cool. I just need to be there and watch him do his thing, which was a lesson in itself every time.
Sure.
But so, um, we did the usual acoustic set, and then Chris sat in uh, towards the end of the gig and did uh, Elmore James' "Shake Your Money Maker,"
Sure.
and sang his ass off, of course.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Um, but we connected after, and we chatted, and he was like, "Hey man, nice playing. I wanted something like I was wondering who this cat is that thinks he can get up and sit in after Levon Helm,
Yeah.
and it's something to the effect of like, not bad, man, not bad. Sounded
Yeah.
pretty good. And so we kind of hit it off. We talked about Levon, we talked about the band, and interestingly enough, we also talked about Little Feat,
Wow.
and Little Feat's first record and how incredible that is, and how I loved Richie Hayward too,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I had a similar conversation with um oh, what's that cat's name, man? Shit. Uh, e- Edit that part out of the
Look,
interview. I can't remember who I'm
yeah.
talking about. Um, Um, anyway, so I met Chris there. That's where I met Chris,
All right.
and then I would run into him here and there. Like I started playing with this cat Anders Osborne from New
Yeah, yeah,
Orleans,
yeah.
and we were on a festival called Mountain Jam, and we went on before CRB, and I was playing with Anders, and I was a little nervous because at that point I was kind of a sub on Anders' gig, and he kept calling me because his usual guy was bailing on him all the time.
Okay.
So I was like, well, we're playing this big festival. Like, I always had cheat sheets with me for all of his tunes. And so I was kind of nervous about that. And I met, I had met Sluppick a couple of times, the guy that was playing with Chris at the time.
Yep.
And he said, hey, man, you got to check out this ride cymbal I got from Istanbul, man. You could use it on your set. And so I ended up playing a cymbal that he lent me that day. But I remember looking over to my right, and the whole CRB was all standing there, like off to the side, checking out our set.
Yeah.
And as I was kind of setting my gear up before that gig, I saw Chris and I knew he was around, and I was gonna say hi, but I thought, oh man, that cat will never, he meets a million people all the time. He's not gonna remember me. And I turned my back, put my cymbal up. All of a sudden, I feel this tap on my shoulder, and it was Chris. Hey man, what's going on?
Yeah.
Uh, and so we met again that time, and we'd run into each other, and I guess so. I think that was probably about 20. I don't know if that was 2014, maybe 2013 or 14. Anyway, I got a call in probably August or September of 2014.
Okay.
And and I looked at my phone. And it was like a LA number. I was like, "Who's calling me from LA, man?" Whatever. I didn't answer it. And I checked the message later. Hey, Tony, what's up, man? It's Chris Robinson. Give me a call. I want to talk to you about something.
Hmm.
So I called him back, and that's when he asked me if I'd be interested in doing the gig. And
Well,
and
I've been pretty quiet here and I've been letting you talk, but I want to say that I think Chris Robinson Brotherhood is one of the great underrated bands of all time. I've told you that before, but I just think that that's a tremendous band. I thought that they were just a really underrated jam band. I thought the compositions were great. I thought you had like the best jam band singer ever, and I thought that the entire band, the whole conception of the band just didn't sound like anybody else you know. So I just want to make sure that I say that.
that's
So
incredible. It's so awesome to hear you say that because at least while I was there, uh, and at least for the first few years that I was there, um, I think we were all kind of pretty proud of what we were doing.
absolutely rightly
Um,
so. Yeah.
um, and when you talk about Chris being a great jam band vocalist, I mean, he's just really one of the best. I mean, he as a vocalist,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, he's next to me. He really is like next in line after all of our heroes.
Well, you know,
Everyone from you could even put Janis Joplin in there, but like
sure.
Janis Joplin, Robert Plant,
Yeah.
Mick Jagger, Rod Stewart, Paul Rogers,
Yeah.
Steve Marriott.
Sure. I mean, he's that guy.
Um,
He's done the studying.
yeah.
He's got the gift too.
And I tell a lot of people this, but the same way a musician picks up their instrument and guitar player learns some Hendrix licks or some
Yeah.
BB King or some Keith Richards or whatever. Guys learn to imitate other players on their instrument. Well, Chris had the same kind of chops with singers, man.
Yeah.
Like he could, and their moves too. Like he would
Yep.
jokingly do it, but it was real. Like he'd be like, "Here's Plant, and here this is Rod's thing, and here's Mick's thing," like
Hmm.
he was studied, you know,
Yeah.
and but natural too. Like his voice is
Well,
natural.
just a few weeks ago, I saw a clip of him on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doing "Feel Like Making Love," the Bad Company song with
Yeah,
Simon. And I'm thinking, this dude is killing this, man. He's
he's killed it. Yeah, he killed it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Now, do you have particular Chris Robinson Brotherhood songs that you're proud of, or the albums, or anything like that?
You know, when
Recordings
I
that
came
we might be able to hear.
yeah, when I came in, I had to learn the whole book basically
Yeah,
that they had done prior to that, and they had been doing it already for when did they start? Like 2010 or
2011,
11?
2011. Yeah.
11?
Mhm.
All right, so I came in. They had been doing it 4 years already.
Okay.
So I had to learn all that stuff, but then we did a few things. We did a like an EP, and then we did like I think two or three full LPs, I think, and then a
Yeah.
bunch of live stuff too.
Yeah.
Um,
Or that last LP, man. Servants of
I
the
I really yeah, there's some really cool stuff on there,
Wow.
man.
Wow.
There's really cool stuff on there.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, like right from the the first track, that Earthly Delights thing,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
like really a feature kind of for Adam
Right. It's like
McDougal,
George
the
Duke or
keyboard
something.
player.
It's like it's you don't
Yeah.
expect that.
Well, yeah, yeah, or like like Jimmy Jam or something,
Yeah.
man.
Right.
It's
Right.
like
Right. Right.
really,
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then there's a tune on there called "Let It Fall,"
Yeah.
which it kind of starts with this guitar riff, and I kind of lifted the groove for that, kind of like, I don't know if do you know Lowell George's solo album at all?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. I'll eat it
Thanks, I'll
here.
leave it here. And
Mhm.
you know that beat that Keltner plays on Two Trains on that
Sure. Yeah.
record?
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar approach to that, that I don't know if I was consciously going for that, but it became kind of this thing. And we would write those things on the floor. I mean, Chris came in with ideas, riffs,
Hmm.
and he would kind of direct as we went. He'd say, "All right, we'll stick with this. All right, hold on a sec." Then we'd stop, and then he'd have the next section. So he was kind of composing on the floor a lot, or he would have a bunch of ideas that we would kind of work out at sound checks and things like that.
Hmm.
But oftentimes, once we would get one instrumental take all the way through, he might like drop some little reference lyrics and things along the way, but oftentimes he wouldn't even write the lyrics until after the song was completed.
But the lyrics were
That
great. That's another thing.
Yeah.
The
Well,
lyrics were
he spent a
great.
lot of time on the lyrics, and he
Yeah.
put a lot of. I mean, look, Chris is we had some complicated times,
I
and
was going to ask
especially
about that too. Yeah.
when you're on a bus with five or six dudes, for 5 years or whatever,
Yeah.
playing as many dates per year as we did, things are probably going to get weird in there a little bit. But he was an extremely creative guy, and he loves music, man. I
Yeah.
mean, I learned a lot. I was surprised to hear how much that guy knew about so many different styles of music.
Yeah.
And even stuff like jazz, we would listen to Clifford Brown and Max Roach, or Charlie Parker, or Coltrane, and you could go from that to like Gong, or like
Yeah. Yeah.
or like Humble Pie, to like, there was one night him and Neil and I were on the bus, just like we put on Exile on Main Street right from the
Yeah.
beginning, and we stood there, the three of us, until the record was over,
Wow.
air guitaring and acting like Mick and singing
Sure.
all the lyrics, and just having a ball, man.
Yeah.
We had a lot of good times in that band.
Yeah. So how did that finish up then? How did that end? It seemed kind of weird toward the end with Adam McDougall leaving the band, and then I wasn't sure what the timeline was. Had he already sort of decided to go back to the Black Crows, or
Well, I guess maybe we all suspected it was going to happen, but none of us knew it for. I certainly didn't know it for sure until after the band was over.
yeah,
The last year was there was a lot. It was a difficult time. There was a lot going on.
yeah,
There was a lot of Neil was having a lot of issues. Um, Neil and Adam had a band called Circles Around the Sun.
right,
I think they were feeling like they really wanted to pursue that further. I think it's also a very difficult thing to keep a band on the road, you know.
right,
I think Chris was kind of stressed in that department about. I'm sure he was stressed about it. Um, you know, he was really creative with like the merch side of things. Like we
yeah,
always had new merch, and I think basically the merch situation was how he was affording to keep the band on the road. Because you know we'd play. It's like almost every other thing I've been a part of. It's like you play New York or like the New York area, and you get a good turnout, and then you play California and you get a good turnout, but like or Chicago, you
mhm,
know. But then all those little in between spots are harder to get people, you know.
sure, sure,
So we would play, you know, the Cap and have a great night, or we'd play like 3 nights at the Fillmore around just before Christmas, and it'd be great. But then we'd play in like Oxford, Mississippi, and it'd be like a Sunday afternoon at 6 p.m. and there'd be like 75 people there, you know.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard, you know.
yeah, yeah,
So there was a lot of stresses going on. There was some personal stuff that, you know, Chris was going through with his family, and there was some stuff that Neil was going through that was really horrible, and you know, it just couldn't sustain. You know, it was sad.
sure. Well, what a great band! I just want to compliment you again. What a great, what a
Thanks,
great
man.
band.
It's
What a
so
great,
nice to, you know, I will say, like, being on the road with Feet, I get a lot of CRB
yeah,
people that heard the band, and really, I think it was special. It was special for all of us involved, and I think the audience felt like they were part of it too. You know, they felt like the fans that were really into it, it was like their band. You know,
cool.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
So how did you join Little Feat?
So well,
Because I'm talking to the drummer with Little Feat. I'm still blown away by that
I
man.
mean, look, man. Richie Hayward is the drummer from Little Feat, man. I am like,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
I know, yeah.
and he will forever be.
But you've got
And
that spirit. You're the guy who has that spirit. I've told you that before.
I appreciate
When I
that so
when I saw
much.
Little Feat, I've seen Little Feat 3 times with you playing, and I really felt like you had, I don't know how closely you studied that or how much they asked you to like emulate some of that stuff. But man, you've really got that thing going on.
They have not been specific about anything, and they've told me to be myself the whole time. You know,
Cool.
do it. You know, do it your way. Do it your way. Uh, but
Well, how did that come about?
well, let me just say that you
Sure,
know,
sure.
do it my way. But like, I'm the kind of guy that like I gotta pay homage to what made the band great. You know,
Those are
so
iconic drum
that's
parts and part of the song.
yeah. And so to answer your question, I did do a lot of study in preparation for it, and I even did some transcription in preparation for it. But ultimately, those are just points of departure, you know, where
Mhm. Yeah,
you start, you know, from you try and capture that feel and that groove, but you know, you're not going to get up there and say the same exact thing that Richie Hayward said. You're not him, you know. So
yeah,
um, but I always try and he's always in mind when I sit behind the drum set. So is Levon.
Yeah.
So is Elton Jones.
Sure. Yeah.
So how did I get the gig? Well, uh after Levon passed away, they kept his band going and called it the Midnight Ramble Band.
Right.
Larry Campbell was the music director for many years. And Little Feat had a yearly resort gig that they would do down in Jamaica, um, where the fans would, pay a price and stay at this resort, and the band would pay play like on the beach, and the fans could go to the shows and right there on the beach in Jamaica. So Feet would often have guests. They'd have different, and oftentimes the Midnight Ramble Band would go down there as their guests. They'd have Los Lobos. I'm trying to remember who else. Well, I mean, while the ones that I did, Jackson Brown was there one year, Lucinda Williams was there another year. So they would always have different guests be a part of it. So I think I did probably three or four of those with the Ramble Band, and so I got to know the Feet guys a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
um, I had also gotten to know Fred Tackett and Paul Barrere through Anders Osborne, who every year at Jazz Fest would do a gig called Dead Feet. He still
Okay.
does it every year,
Yep. Yep.
where they play Grateful Dead music and Little Feat music. And the 2 years that I did it, I double drummed with Billy Kreutzmann from the Grateful Dead.
Cool.
Um, and you know, they brought me on because they thought, oh, I probably know like the Feet stuff as well as the Dead stuff, and so that I had also met Paul and Fred up at Levon's barn one
Okay.
time, but that was very briefly. Once I did those Dead Feet gigs, I got to know them a little bit better.
Hmm.
Um, and then on one of those Jamaican resort gigs, I've been. There was one night we finished our gig, and I was sitting on the beach, and I had my earbuds in, and I was just kind of chilling, and I was listening to Feats "Don't Fail Me Now."
Hmm.
I'd been really studying those records for years now. Like I told you, I had those conversations with Chris
Yeah.
and a few other people at the barn about Richie and Tommy Lee Jones is the other guy I was talking to
Okay. Okay.
about Richie Hayward.
There you go. I knew it would come to you eventually. We just had to stay on long enough.
uh
But anyway,
anyway,
you had earbuds in.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was listening to Feet Don't Fail Me Now, and the fan came on. And I was like, geez, man, I wonder if these guys ever play the fan anymore. I never hear them do it. And next day I ran into Bill on the beach, and I was like, I'd met Bill a few times, but we really didn't know each other. But I said, man, I'm going to go talk to Bill. I got to ask him about the fan.
Sure.
And I said, Bill, how the hell did you guys? I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall watching you guys rehearse the fan because it's really intricate, man. Like through, we're not the vamp is in seven. Not only that, but all through the verses. When it gets to like the little chorus section, it switches to five, I think, for a minute. I'm at a point now where if I even think about counting it, forget it. It's going to fall apart. So I'm
Mhm.
not even
Yeah.
sure what it is, but and he just said something. Oh, he told the story of how he had been sitting at two different keyboards and at the rehearsal space and just kind of came up with this little riff. So it started with that, and he didn't really have any specific memories of how that came about, but um, which was crazy to me because I would have thought, geez, to get that thing, they must have rehearsed it
Yeah. For
like
months.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I think it was the kind of thing that it developed over time. They would play it at gigs or vamp on it at gigs, and then it made its way kind of into the repertoire. But that was the first time I connected with Bill, kind of.
Okay.
Um, um, and then in 2019, July 2019 is when CRB ended.
Mm-hmm.
I think, let's see, I think it was maybe later that year that there was another Ramble on the Island, or what, Little Feat
Yep.
thing down, and so I saw the guys down there and did some playing with them, and then March of 20 is when the pandemic hit,
Oh yeah.
and I don't, man, like, oh, Paul Barrere had passed away
Right.
also in 2019,
And they had
and
broken up for a while, right? Bill Payne was playing with the Doobie Brothers.
well, he had been playing with the Doobies the whole time
Really?
because,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, like, I mean, at least for a few years,
Okay.
because there was one Ramble on the Island that Bill couldn't do because he had a conflict with the Doobie Brothers.
Okay.
So he had John Groh subbing for him and Brian Mitchell. Those
Okay.
two guys subbed for him. And so yeah, so anyway, the pandemic hits, I'm at home one day, and Feet's manager at the time, Cameron Sears, calls me. Hey, Cameron, what's up? He's like, hey, man, I'm not, none of us know really what's going on here, but like, with the pandemic and stuff, and nobody's working, but I've been talking to Bill Payne about a bunch of stuff, and I think he wants to call you about potentially doing some stuff together. And it sounded to me like maybe he was going to do a record, or,
Yeah.
and so he said, be on the lookout for a call from Bill Payne. And then, I mean, not even an hour later, Bill called and was like, yeah, I don't know what Cameron told you, but we want you to join Little Feat. And I was like, okay,
Well, that's
okay, I'm
cool.
I'm in,
Yeah.
and
Had they already gotten Scott Sherrard at that time, or were you the first?
well, Scott's first gig with the band was the day that Paul Barrere died.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
So it was
Somebody tried
like
subbing for him, I guess.
it was like emergency situation.
Yeah.
Paul, it's not looking good. We got this gig. We got to do the gig. We need somebody. And I think Larry Campbell had been subbing with them,
Mm-hmm.
but or he had been like supplementing, playing with them. But for some reason, maybe he had something going on. He couldn't make the gig, and Scott jumped in there, man, and he already knew all the tunes,
Yeah.
and he crushed it, man. And they were just like, it was like, it
Well,
was,
and he could
like
sing
a
all Lola's
godsend.
parts too, right?
Well, and at that point, they were still doing stuff in different keys.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, no, like, yeah, Scott had already been in there. His first
Yeah.
gig
Yeah.
was with
Okay. Okay.
them the day that Paul passed away. Mhm.
Okay. And when did you start playing out with them then?
So when Bill called me, it was like April or May of 2020. My first gig, or the first time I played with them, was a rehearsal before the first run that we did, which was November 1st or 2nd of 21.
Ooh, that's a long time. That's a long time to sit on that. At least you had time to work on your stuff, man.
Well, we had a lot of time to sift through every record. I and I didn't sift through everything. I went through every record up through Let It Roll
Okay.
is what I studied. And then as some of the newer things came in, not true, not Let It Roll. I went up through Representing the Mambo.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I had charts for everything so that if there was anything, I was practicing with the charts, but I was prepared. Whatever they
Yeah.
called,
Mm-hmm.
we could do it. And it was during that time that I really started to realize the intricacies and the conversation that's happening between Richie Hayward and Kenny Gradney. You
Yep.
know,
Yep. That's just an amazing thing because those guys, it was like, if you think about like Rocco and Garibaldi with
yeah,
Tower, it's that
yeah.
same kind of thing. It's a,
I think, yeah, definitely.
Ron and Tony back in the
Uh huh.
60s. It's that same kind of thing. That's just something that you can't buy, you know?
It's telepathic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you play with Kenny Gradney all the time now. What is that like? I mean,
I've
that's one of the
I've
great bass
I
players of all
play
time.
with Kenny. I play with Kenny Gradney. I have lunch with Kenny
Yeah,
Gradney. I
man.
have dinner with Kenny Gradney.
Dig you.
I hang out with Kenny Gradney on the days off, and
Yeah.
we have a lot of laughs, man. We eat ice cream and like we have a he Kenny. Kenny's just the best, man. He's the coolest dude. He is a kind-hearted, uh, just down to earth good guy, man. Like you can't say enough good things about Kenny Gradney. He's just like always up. His vibe is always up.
Yep.
He's always like he's the guy you want to hang with all the time. And playing with him is a joy. But as I was going through that material, I was listening to Skin It Back
Yeah.
from the Waiting for Columbus version, and I knew the tune. I'd listened to it a million times. I could sing along with it, and I was like, oh, I got. It's just basically it's just a funk jam over one chord, right?
Mm,
Wrong,
mm,
wrong.
yeah.
Upon reflection of those parts and what's going on, I was listening to it one day, and I was like, Jesus, man, those two are putting every little hit in the same spot, and it's
Yeah.
never the same twice.
Yeah.
You know,
Right,
it's
right. That whole song is like one big ostinato pattern, right? It's that you can't,
yeah. It's
yeah.
like the parts depending on what part of the tune it is and what's happening with the verse. The bass and the bass drum are completely locked up, and
Yeah.
they're playing the same rhythmic phrases.
Yeah. I always wondered how they kept that straight, if that was just an intuitive thing or if they had worked all that out. I assume it's an intuitive.
Well, so I'll tell you what happened with me. I had it like I was like, it was like my first big oh shit moment. Like oh man. And so I listened to it. I listened to it again. And I did not know Kenny very well at this point, but I had his number because I think we had maybe had a meeting or something together. I forgot how I had his number. Anyway, I called him and I was like, because we personally didn't even know, I didn't even know what kind of guy he was at that point. And I was like, man, if I get on the gig and he's drug with me, if I'm not making it, this is going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
So I should at least try and get to know this cat. So I called him up and he was like, "What's up, my brother?" and and I said, "Well, Kenny, man, this is Tony. We're going to be playing a lot next year, and I was just listening to Skin It Back, and God, you and Richie are just so locked up rhythmically. You're playing like you're one mind, man. How did you guys do that?" And he was like, "Man, we just did it, and you're gonna get on the band, and we're just gonna do it too, and it's gonna be killer, man. We're gonna have a ball." And that's all he said. And I mean, it sounds nice, but I'm thinking in my
Yeah,
head like,
right.
you know, time to prepare. So I actually on that tune I did kind of go through and transcribe a little, so that I kind of understand what's happening with the vocal and how the bass drum and bass are kind of working underneath that,
Yeah.
you know. because like that's like we are saying, that's one of those tunes. It's like it's it's like a machine. It's locked up.
Yeah, yeah,
The teeth of the cogs in the wheel.
yeah.
They're um. So that was one of the tunes I had to dig deep into. But yeah, Kenny's a blast. I mean, I every night, and Scott and I say this all the time to each other. Every night, we look around and we look at these cats. They're road warriors,
Sure.
and they could be feeling the flu or drugged from being on the road for the third week or whatever, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. As soon as we get out there to play, I mean, Bill Payne is there to play, man.
Oh, oh yes, sir.
He's gonna deliver it every
Oh yes,
night.
sir. The band really
And
fires, I think, on all cylinders right now. I really think that this is a great, great version of Little Feat.
well, man, I appreciate you saying that, and I think Scott and I we kind of pinch ourselves after every
Yeah,
gig,
man.
like
Yeah,
like,
yeah, man.
well, this is like rock and roll fantasy camp, man, and we're getting paid.
Now, last year, Little Feat announced its last farewell tour, uh, and they're going to do like 2 years of it, but actually after that they're going to hang it up. How did that come about, and what does that entail? I'm really interested in this part because I'm going to miss Little Feat.
Well, I think like Bill kind of describes it as it's not goodbye or farewell. It's like the long passionate goodbye,
Yeah, yeah,
or in my case, in my family, the Italian goodbye, which is like you say goodbye 7 times before you finally leave the person's house.
yeah. There you go. Yeah,
You start the conversation, all right, see you later. Oh, by the way, did you hear what so and so did the other day? And then,
yeah,
then it's another half an hour. So I think that's the initial that's the plan for this thing, is that we're just gonna keep playing and try and hit all the markets with the farewell thing. A couple of the guys are getting on,
yeah.
and you know playing a 2 hour show 4 or 5 nights a week, man.
Sure.
That's tough when you're in your 30s, 40s, you know, 50s,
Yeah,
and a couple of the cats are in their mid 70s, a couple of them in their 80s.
yeah,
So, and like I said, we're all astounded every night, at the energy level.
yeah.
Um, but you've been on the road that long, you deserve a little bit of a break, and you deserve to, if you deserve a little kind of, a light at the end of the tunnel, in
Right.
a
Yes.
way.
Yes. So the plan is for another couple years, correct?
Um, uh, yeah, I mean, there's
Roughly.
no definite plan, but we plan to hit all the markets, that's for sure, and hopefully get to Europe, and hopefully even get to Japan. That would be fantastic. Maybe
Okay.
Australia, I don't know.
Okay.
But for now, we know that we're going to be all over the country next year for sure, and possibly Europe.
All right, cool. So what are you doing otherwise? What I mean, I know you play in other bands. Scott Sherrard has a great band called El Dorado Slim that I know that you play with. And
Yeah,
and you do other things as well. What are those? I want to make sure that we mention those as well.
the El Dorado Slim band is super fun. I mean,
That's
we
killer
really,
material, man. Killer material that they do.
I mean, Scotty picked out all the material, and he claims it's a lot of the stuff that he was listening to when he was in high school. There's a lot of boogaloo funk kind of stuff, Grant
Glenn
Green,
Green. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, but there's kind of like a bitches brew vibe to what we do, for
Okay. Well,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, where it gets super out there, and you know, and extended,
Yeah.
we definitely try and keep it in the cut, and funky, but there are times when we go far out, and it gets crazy, so it's
Right
kind of
on.
anywhere from like Lou Donaldson Boogaloo, to like Miles at the Fillmore, to like Cream, or you know Jimi Hendrix Experience, almost,
That's a pretty cool combination, man.
with some like I mean, Scott is shredding so hard these days, man. I mean,
Amazing
that
today.
guy is,
Yeah.
he just plays the hell out of the guitar, man.
Yeah.
So that's really an excuse for us to get together with some friends and just play as hard as we can, for 90 minutes straight, and
Sure.
leave it all on the bandstand.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then I've been playing a lot up at the Midnight Rambles are still happening up at Levon Helm Studios.
Wonderful. That's got to be great for you.
Um, it's great because we've been going there for so long that it feels like home.
Yeah.
And now Amy's son, Levon Lee Collins,
Hmm.
is playing some drums. He's 17.
Wow.
Is he going to be 18? Oh my God, he's really coming. And so he's playing drums, and we play double drums together
All
on a
right.
lot of things, which for me is really, his granddad was so kind and encouraging, 'cause to me,
Yeah.
that's the kind of guy he was. He was like that with everybody. But being a drummer and having the experience of getting to play next to him, and now passing some stuff on to his grandson,
Yeah.
being there, watching him grow and playing alongside him, it's really, it's like some cycle of life stuff, you know.
Very cool, man.
It's very cool. So I love going up there and playing. I've been playing a lot more kind of straight ahead jazz on the New York scene a little bit here and there. I've been doing some gigs at Smalls Jazz Club, leading my own quintet.
Which people can
Which,
watch because they have a four camera
yes,
feed.
yeah, smallslive.com.
Yeah. I know I saw you
And
there last year. I was in my living room, but
I'll
I
be
saw
there
you.
again in March, on
Cool.
March 16th.
Okay.
Um, and that's been great. I mean, the thing about drums, as you know, man, is there's just like so many different ways and styles to play,
Yep. 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 You
and yeah,
yeah, your limitations are whatever you decide they are.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's always some stuff that you haven't heard, and sometimes you'll hear some stuff that doesn't resonate with you. You don't have to know how to play it all, but like, there's so much music that I love that inspires me,
Yeah.
that I want to be a part of whatever I can,
Yeah.
um, that I that I want to play music that moves me, that inspires me. You know,
Right.
I've played plenty of gigs in my life where you're playing a cocktail party at somebody's wedding or whatever, and it's a drag or a bummer. You're playing an office party, or you're playing a high school musical, or and
Yeah.
that's cool too. But I really feel like I'm at a point where I want to play music with musicians that inspire me, that make me feel like, you better play good, man. Otherwise, you're not going to get a call.
Yeah.
Like,
Right on. Right on, man.
to me,
Right on.
that's what keeps you on your toes, and that's what keeps you growing.
Right on.
Still have practice. That I still have
Yeah.
to still practice all the time. Since playing in feet, I think I practice more now than I ever have. Even because it's a lot. Like everyone keeps reminding me, it's a lot to live up to, man.
Yeah, it
You
is.
know,
Yeah. I think I
big
just did that too. I think I just did that too. So, yeah, yeah. Well, Tony, I can't thank you enough for your time and these great stories. And I hope you enjoy the finished product once we get it out here. But we'll be looking for you if you come through with Little Feat too.
Yeah, man, Todd, always great talking to you, man, and And I always appreciate all the wisdom that you lay on me too, man, every time we talk.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And I will talk to you soon. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye bye.
Later.
I don't know how to
Oh,
fucking
all right.
operate Zoom, dude. I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm
I don't
learning. I'm
really either.
learning. My wife is really learning, and then I'm sort of going along with it and going, "Oh, that's how you do it."
Right.